Hello and welcome back. For this segment, we are going to talk about student-initiated contact with other students. There are two questions that we're going to answer. The first question is, how will your students communicate with each other during your course in an unstructured format? Second question is, what tools will your students use to accommodate a variety of communication styles? Angie, we'll start with you.
So the primary way that I have students interact in an unstructured format is that we do have an open student discussion forum in my course. And I let students know from the outset that that is their place to communicate with one another, and that I monitor it, but I won't really be involved in it. And they do use that as a place to collaborate. Of course, they can always message each other through the course inbox as well if they would like to. At certain times during the course, I'll also, for instance, if they're working on their final project, I might throw in another discussion forum and just say, hey, this is open. If you need some help with your final project from your classmates, feel free to jump in there. And they do use that a lot too, just to get specific support from their classmates. And then the different tools that I use, as I said, just to support different communication styles, we of course do video calls for student presentations, and we use discussion forums. We'll use Flipgrid, so that is more of an asynchronous video sharing, and then inbox messages as well. So we do take full advantage of all of the different points of contact within Canvas.
Awesome. Emery, what about you?
We do the same thing. There's so many tools or ways to facilitate discussion in Canvas, and you really need to make use of all of them. Having that open discussion forum, I think, is very effective because it's not seen as an assignment. It's just there as a place to post questions, and not necessarily to get an answer from you, but to get an answer from other students. And that's really when I think it is most effective, when another student pops up and says, oh, you need to do this for that particular assignment, instead of me having to interject it. And then I can step in, or I can monitor it, or I can refine the answer if I need to. So that helps in that regard. I think that's all very important. Tools like Slack obviously are very useful. My students most of the time will end up sharing their phone numbers so that they will actually end up texting each other. I can't mandate that, obviously, because there are a few students that find that problematic, or personally they don't want to do it. But actually, for the ones that do, it is really very helpful, because then they set up this little community within the community, and they're texting each other. And well, it's nothing that I even see necessarily, but that's okay, because they need to talk to each other also.
A couple of things that I've done that have been kind of interesting is in my smaller courses where we're trying to build that community, we've created like a Google slide where every student shares information about themselves on their own slide, and they share their email, their telephone number, so that way they can communicate back and forth outside of kind of the class and outside of Canvas. Another thing that we've done is within Canvas, open the student organization or student community area where they can work and share as well. Another thing that's been helpful is, again, working with Slack and Yellow Dig and having students open up more of a community space there that we don't monitor as instructors. And I think the thing that's the hardest about this, though, is when they're communicating back and forth, there's always questions that come up. So students sometimes forget that we don't necessarily monitor those channels. So they're like, Dr. J, can you answer this? And I'm like, I'm not going to see it there. So, it's like, remember the channels that you're in so that way it works. But I think above all, it's if it's a large class, how do you break down those into smaller groups? If it's already a small class, what can you do to help facilitate those, just so that students don't feel isolated and they have a chance to interact? I think in my larger course, that was something we heard over and over again is, I feel like I'm on my own separate island. And by having Yellow Dig and Slack, it minimized that. And then we had students really start communicating with each other and helping each other, which we're like, okay, yes, we've reached that point where they're communicating just like you would in a regular classroom setting if you were face to face. We see that in this environment as well. So it's not only creating the tool or having a tool, it's as the instructor saying, hey, these are available to you, and then opening up so students will take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Other thoughts on this topic? All right,
Yeah.
we shall see you in the next video.
Okay.